Just spoke with border czar Tom Homan. Says, hey, you know what a big problem is? Not all this litigation. The laws themselves, and Congress won't fix them. I want to talk about that with a leading member of the House on the Democratic side, member of Congress Adam Smith from Washington. It's good to see you, Congressman. I want to talk to you about that, and then I want to ask you about the economy. On the immigration side, I don't think that you would disagree with Homan that there are law fixes that should be debated. That has been out there for a long time. Congress has never wanted to do it. Why, in your experience?
Well, three quick points on this, two that need to be made before we get into that issue. One, the Trump administration is in open defiance of the court. And I kind of thought you let Mr. Homan off the hook on that one. The Supreme Court has made a ruling that they need to return that man from Maryland, and they have chosen to ignore it. The Supreme Court has also made a number of rulings limiting their ability to deport. They are in open defiance of the United States Supreme Court right now. That is a problem. That we should not just let go because they are correct that our border needs to be secure. They are in open defiance of the Supreme Court, number one. Number two, the president has said that there should be no due process for the deportation of people. And I want everyone to understand the reason that you have due process is not to protect people who should be deported. But if you don't have any process, how do you know? And we've seen they've rounded up some people who shouldn't be deported. It is to protect everyone, not to protect people who are in violation of the law. So we shouldn't blow past the open defiance of the Supreme Court and the fact that we are basically disappearing people now without any court process. And that is very contrary to what the United States of America should stand for. All of that said, and that is important and not to be ignored, yes, we did a poor job of securing the border, particularly on the asylum laws. I don't necessarily agree with everything that Mr. Homan said there, but certainly the asylum laws were wide open and people took advantage of that. And President Biden didn't do enough to secure the border. On the larger question of what Congress wants to do, problem is we can't get a compromise. Toughen the border, but also we've got Donald Trump blocking refugees, taking away temporary protective status. And also a number of us believe that there are a lot of people in this country, undocumented, who should be allowed to stay. They have been a vital part of our economy. They are vital parts of our community. They are husbands, wives, mothers, fathers, working, paying taxes. We have depended upon their labor for decades. And to rip those families apart and send them back to countries that in many cases they don't even know, we believe would be wrong. So Democrats want pathway to citizenship for some undocumented immigrants. And then a lot of us are wide open to talking about toughening the asylum laws and getting to greater security. But that inability to compromise on that issue is the biggest thing that has blocked Congress acting.
Well, but why does it have to be that kind of compromise? Because the idea of making it comprehensive has become some kind of rule. Why? Why not break it apart? Why not change the asylum standards to recognize the reality that economic distress is not asylum, not under the 1980 fix that Reagan did for the international treaty, not under anybody's law. That's why 90% of the cases you lose. Why not just fix that as a standalone?
I would be okay with doing that. A lot of my fellow Democrats would not. And I'm not unsympathetic because what they're saying is, look, you're never going to address the issue of protecting the undocumented population. You're not going to put in adequate protections for refugees.
But they didn't do it when Obama had the House. When Obama had the House, Adam, they didn't do it then either.
Well, look, there's people on the far right and the far left, and then there's a lot of people in the middle. There is not a clear majority consensus on this issue. And look, our founding fathers set the situation up here where you've got to get a lot of consensus before you can get something passed. That is part of the challenge. You know, in the Senate, one person can block just about anything for a period of time. You've got the filibuster. There are all kinds of impediments, as you know, to passing legislation.
Right, but this is different, immigration. Everybody always says comprehensive because nobody wants to do it piecemeal. My theory is cynical, yes. I think the problem works better for both parties than fixing it. You get to point at them about being heartless. They get to point at you about being headless.
Yeah, speaking on behalf of the Democrats, it ain't working for us right now. Well,
that's because you let it languish, because you went full AOC on it. You went full AOC.
Well, I guess I'm disagreeing with your premise that this is some sort of cynical political move on our part. If it is, we need to get better at cynical political moves
I
because it's
agree.
not cutting in our favor at the moment.
I agree. Look, I think, look, you're right about the principle of due process, period. Trump's wrong on it. He's wrong to violate the Supreme Court. I get the DOJ's legal position that this order on Garcia is superseded by the IAEA. I don't think they're going to win, but I get the legal theory. What I don't like is the optics of making Garcia some kind of poster boy of a man from Maryland. That's not what he is, but that's a political choice.
Yeah, fair enough. There
Go
are
ahead.
some
Make a point.
There are some facts there that Mr. Holman wasn't entirely correct. And I don't know the full story, but I have seen a lot of reporting that his so-called gang affiliation is based on the fact that he was picked up at a Home Depot looking for work in the company of a couple of other people who were gang members. And he happens to have a Chicago Bulls hat. So I would like to see a little bit more evidence of that. And maybe they have it, but it hasn't actually been put out there to the public just yet.
Look, and that's what due process is about. Adam, I owe you a hit. I want to talk to you about the economy, but I got to jump. I'll have you back another time to talk about it because I want your ideas on how to change the benefits in our society. And I know you have great ideas about it. Thank you for being with me.
Love that chance. Thanks, Chris.
You'll get it. Thank you very much. Adam Smith. Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.